We are going to travel all the way to Europe to tackle about the European literature. We are the Group 3 and join us to our long journey on European literature. The European literature is also known as Western literature and is considered to be one of the defining elements of Western civilization. The history of European literature in each of its standard periods can be illuminated by comparative consideration of the different literary languages within Europe and of the relationship of European literature to the world literature. The global history of literature from the ancient Near East to the present can be divided into 7 main overlapping stages. We have the ancient, medieval, Renaissance, Age of Reason, Romanticism, and 18th, 19th, and 20th century literature.
Let us start first with ancient literature. The ancient literature started in 3400 BC. This covers the 5 ancient civilizations of Babylonia, Assyria, Egypt, Greece, and Rome, including the culture of the Israelites in Palestine. In this period, song, poems, fables, and anecdotes were all invented. The prominent works during this time are the Code of Hammurabi, the world's first codified law, and Metamorphoses, the compilation of Roman mythology and culture. Going on to the medieval period. Medieval period is also called as the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages due to the prevailing condition during this period. Barbarian invasion and Muslim conquest marked this era. Wars, famine, plagues, and decline in culture and learning. This period started from the 5th century up until the 15th century. The people used the Middle Ages to describe Europe between the fall of Rome in 476 CE and the beginning of Renaissance in 14th century. In this era, one of the prominent writers here is Geoffrey Chaucer. He is a major poet of England and the most significant writer before Shakespeare. His masterpiece is the Canterbury Tale. The Canterbury Tale is an unfinished work with approximately 17,000 lines. Moving on, we are now going to the Renaissance period. Renaissance is a fervent period of European and economic rebirth following the Middle Ages. This takes place from 14th century to 17th century. Renaissance is credited with bridging the gap between the medieval period and the modern-day civilization. One of the famous writers that we have during the Renaissance is Christopher Marlowe, who wrote the Dr. Faustus.
We are now heading to the Age of the Reason.
The Age of the Reason takes place during the 17th century. It is also a period of increasing disturbance and violent crimes, no less in literature than in politics and society.
One of the prominent writers that we have in this era is William Shakespeare, who wrote the tragedies and Romeo and Juliet. The 18th century.
The 18th century was marked by full reign in politics. Recent and passionate novels and satire were born in this period.
Masterpieces like Dictionary that was written by Samuel Johnson and an essay on understanding by Alexander Pope was written in this era. The 19th century.
The 19th century was one of the most vital, interesting periods of all. This period of special interest is the formative era from which many modern literary conditions and tendencies derive. Romanticism, symbolism, realism was developed during this period.
Guy de Maupassant, who wrote The Necklace, and John Keats, who wrote The Ode to Psyche, were the prominent writers in this era.
The 20th century literature. The top-notch writers during this period are Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote the famous Sherlock Holmes, L. Frank Baum, who wrote The Wizard of the Oz, and Rudyard Kipling, who wrote The Jungle Book.
The significance of European literature in their country and the world is that it helps them expand their minds to see the world wide outside, that helps them to appreciate and understand other culture and beliefs. The literature helps them to know the history so that they will know about the past, and it helps them to know their families. In learning history, it also provides them growth, strengthens their minds, and it helps them to think outside the box.
We just finished our long journey to the wonderful land of Europe. Let us now travel to the land where it is more fun, the Philippines. The Philippine literature is associated with the Philippines from prehistory to its colonial legacies and onto the present. Philippine literature reflects a diverse group of works which are mostly grounded in traditional folktales, socio-political histories, and real-life experiences. Such books have since promoted Filipino cultural values, told daily struggles of locals, and have instilled a remarkable lesson or two. Filipino written literature, which is about 400 years old, is one of the slow and evolutionary growth. Filipino writers strove to express their sentiments while struggling with foreign media. The great mass of literature in English that we have today is indeed a tribute to what our writers have achieved in a short span of time. What they have written can compare with some of the best works in the world.
Along with many foreign civilizations, there are ancient literatures in the Philippines that happened in early seasons. Philippine literature has emerged from a variety of groups of people arriving in it or to tell about. Agreement with spaces between ancient Philippines came to the Negritos, the Indonesian, and Malay. The coast, one of the sanctions that existed in the ancient Philippine system of writings before the advent of foreign troops, came from the western part of the world. But most of the written literature of ancient Filipinos in the Philippines was burned by the Spaniards. Some of the trees were covered and the leaves were covered with the leaves of plants.
Here are the significant writers in the Philippine literature with their significant literary piece. Francisco Balagtas, who wrote the Florante at Laura. Dr. Jose Rizal, who wrote the Nolimitangere or Dutch Minute and the El Filibusterismo, which is the continuation of Nolimitangere, and Jose de la Cruz, who wrote the Ibong Adarna.
The significance of Philippine literature to our own community and to the world is that its relevancy to the other countries' literature will educate and fulfill the satisfaction of the reader. Exploring and discovering the Philippine literature will help our community to recognize and respect the sacrifices that was made to have a literature in Philippines and Europe can be considered as post-colonial works, due to the fact that they were once colonized. Many literary masterpieces contain moods that expresses patriotism and claiming for independence. Both the literary pieces in Philippines and Europe have helped them establish an identity on its own. Their literature is compact of ideas wherein culture, belief, religion, and values collide. Like Philippine literature, European or Western literature projects, different subjects and moods like love, death and grief, religion and feelings, the beauty and love of nature and art. These are revealed from the different writers or authors who want to share their views and emotion through different literary works. Each country in Philippines and Europe has its own literary pieces which can be traced to have been influenced by foreign philosophies. Philippine literature, European literature have also evolved from classical to modern literature, with the understanding of traditional living and modern society. Europeans view literature as a powerful weapon to persuade the public. In like manner, the undying literary masterpieces of Rizal, Nolimitangere, and El Filibusterismo have awakened the minds of millions of Filipinos as they come together to fight for independence. The literature of these two continents are basically aimed at entertaining and educating people. Europe has the kind of literature that talks about religion and customs, like the Divine Comedy by Dante of Italy. If we try to look into the different literary works of both, we can observe that they both have their own and unique styles and modes of writing. Most of their literary pieces were greatly influenced by their beliefs, culture, and tradition, which have made them unique in their own way.
Tackle the Philippine literature and the European literature, we saw the kinds of literature that they have on their early times. Now that we're already in the 21st century, the improvement that we can see in the literature is that any types of story that was written in different platform is now considered as literature, even comics and Twitter series. It also considers themes such as history and memory, intertextuality, technology, and even the identity. The literature in the 21st century has become more open-minded to adapt new things, to adapt new generation, and to give chance to people to express themselves in whatever way they want.